I just noticed that the save screen says Road to Empire, while the actual chapter opening said Road to the Empire. That's weird. Anyway. So, here we are with a Fog of War route chapter, which I have been dreading. It's not nearly as bad on normal as it is on hard. On hard, this chapter is a serious pain. But anyway, this chapter sort of begins almost like a defend one, because we have some choke points to guard against enemies trying to infiltrate our camp, and we also have some loose sandbags that we need to defend, because the enemies will try and break through these. But let's just go ahead and select our characters, or have I already... Nope, definitely haven't already done that, because I have Oscar, Boyd, and Rolf here. Oscar might as well be useful, no Boyd. So let's see, definitely want Janeth, I definitely want Shinnon as well, so I may have to kick out Oscar and put in Shinnon. Like I said earlier, even though Shinnon is not promoted, he's still going to be very useful here. So now, repositioning time. I definitely want to have Gatry and Mia take on this side of the map. And Titania, Ike, and Soren are going to take on the lower part. Shinnon's just going to go wherever he's needed, and Rolf is kind of similar. Nyla is going to take on this entire side of the map single-handedly, because, yeah, she's Nyla. And Raphael's going to pretty much go where he's needed. Yeah, he's Celerity. Janeth will just act as a scout, and I think the setup's alright, though I might actually want to swap these two. Now, I should just quickly mention, there is a Falcon Knight over here who can fly into this top corner of the camp, so don't put anyone weak there. There's also a Falcon Knight kind of around here-ish, so gotta watch out for them. And I think that is mostly it. Just a couple of things I want to show. So firstly, here's Ina. She's an NPC in this map. It's not a game over if she dies or anything, so what happens to her doesn't really matter. But the thing that I wanted to show her stats for is her stats in 3 endgame were a lot higher. I don't know why, but these are Ina's actual stats, so her 3 endgame stats must have been a mistake. Secondly, if we check conditions, we can see that the enemy faction here is called Divine Hand. They were just called Hand in the American version, and Goddess's Hand in the Japanese version. So I obviously prefer the European name of this faction to the American one. Anyway, I think this should be fine. Okay, you do have physics stuff. Soren no longer has physic. Yeah, this should be alright. Although, if anything, you should probably have physic because you've got longer range with it and you're a lot more fragile than Mist is. You're most of it back up. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and swap, because I have a feeling that if I don't give Rice physic, he's not going to do anything in this chapter. So, where is Mist? There she is. Alternatively, I could give him Torch, but I think last time I said I wanted to give Torch to whoever had better mobility, so that's going to be Mist. And this looks about right, so let's save and move out. And we're back to Grail Mercenaries fanfares, which we actually haven't heard those for a little while, thanks to us taking a bit of a break with the Apostles' Army fanfares, which we'll never hear in the game again, so yeah. Now, a lot of the enemies here I find are a bit hard for Titania to double. So let's see. Okay, Soren is certainly doubling things. Now, it's a little risky to have Soren go all the way down here right from the outset. But I feel confident that his A support with Ike is going to let him dodge a lot of things. I like how we can see the pyre there in the background. And there's Flare, even though it's probably not going to kill because... yep, that is not true. I've said this before, but someone was like... Tripling the might of magic is too broken, but they let you triple the might and ignore defense on Luna, which is even more broken. Mages really needed the extra boost. It felt like they were just going out of their way to nerf magic in every way, shape, and form in Radiant Dawn. And as I've said many times, that was not really necessary. Anyway, Ike does not fear crossbows. This is our first time having Ike fight as a Vanguard as well. This chapter is mainly going to be an Ike grinding fest. That's kind of what a lot of these Part 4 route maps are. just grinding fest, but this one has a specific purpose, because Ike's only just promoted, but even though he's only just promoted, he's still more than a match for almost. I mean, I could easily solo this map if you let him. And here's Radiant Dawn's ridiculous effectiveness bonuses in action. Much, much more dangerous than they were in Path of Radiance, as you no doubt know. Yeah, I wish Titania was a little bit faster. I also really wish Gatefree was faster, because there's actually quite a few enemies here that Gatefree, in my file, has just not enough speed double. So for example, if Gatefree had 1 more speed, he'd be doubling this Halberdier. And he'd be doubling that Halberdier as well. So yeah, I've got kind of unlucky with Gatefree's speed growth in this file. Anyway, I'm gonna go for a 3-range shot with Rolf here. Doesn't exactly matter whether he's behind the tree or behind the sandbags. This isn't Valkyria Chronicles, where crouching behind sandbags somehow gives you superhuman immunity to bullets. I always found that funny. And if you can't tell, I've been playing Valkyria Chronicles 4 lately. I might do a my thoughts on that game. It's the kind of game where I feel like doing that, because it's interesting. I'm liking it a lot more than I thought I would. It's pretty much exactly the same game as the first game, with only a few minor tweaks, but I like the story and characters better, so I'm enjoying it in some ways more than the first one. And what little gameplay tweaks there are were actually really nice. You have to play quite a bit into the game to start noticing the subtle differences, though. Anyway, here's Nyla. She is broken as all get out. There's not really much else to say here. There's something about a white wolf fighting in the snow that's just really cool. Reminds me a little bit of Twilight Princess, although there wasn't really a white wolf in that. There was sort of a goldish wolf. Okay, now, these sandbags, I like to break these myself. However, I might not be able to, because, yeah, even Dauntless, that's 47 attack against. Actually, no, Dauntless could break that. Because as always in the series, obstacles are treated as having 0 defense, so you do exactly as much damage as your weapon might. And should Mia actually go here and try and break that sandbag, which she isn't able to do unless she gets Adept, unfortunately. Because, yeah, the best attack power she has is 1 damage off breaking the sandbag. I could have her wind edge someone, or I could just have her just run in all swords blazing, I guess. Yeah, let's just go for this. I've actually had Mia get into a bit of trouble in this chapter, but last time I practiced this, because I actually did practice, because as of recording, I've been away from this game for a while. I've missed Mia. It was pretty cool while I was away on holiday. They announced that Halloween Mia, which I did not expect Mia of all people to get a Halloween ult, but it's kind of cool. Still haven't pulled it though, because yeah. Now, like I said, there is going to be a Falcon Knight flying out of there, so I'm going to actually prepare for that by having Shinnen go up there with a crossbow. And do I need to Torch Staff with Mist? Probably not. I mean, I could go for a Raphael chant here, but that puts him dangerously close to the enemies. Maybe instead I'll do this. Oh, this Torch Staff is all the way from 3-6, isn't it? And that's a pretty nice amount of extended vision. And Rice will just... I mean, I guess he can go there. Gotta remember... I've also got to remember there might be a Falcon Knight. I forget where the second Falcon Knight is. And I really don't want to have Raphael die on the first turn like happens in all of my practice runs. Now, Janeth, where do I need scouted out? Don't want Janeth to get attacked by a Falcon Knight either. So for now, I might just have Janeth go over here-ish. You know, maybe... I don't really need Rolf refreshed yet, so I'll have Raphael go here. Because of the Fog of War and the fact there are going to be some reinforcement Falcon Knights that are really, really annoying because it's hard to see where they spawn from, I might end up... Oh, that's interesting. You can't use the Torch Staff twice in the same turn. I guess because it's an aura that's centered on you and the aura maintains even if... maintains throughout the turn, basically. But yeah, I often don't really find myself using Raphael all that much on this map because it's kind of hard when you've got a character who dies in one hit on a Fog of War map. At least he isn't Sophia from that Binding Blade Desert chapter. Yeah, this tends to happen, but I had to use Dauntless to break through that barricading one. Something funny about this map is that, you might see this later, but the enemies here, I said much earlier in the game, though it may have been a failed take. In fact, I'm pretty sure it isn't a failed take, and in fact, you can see it in action right now. The enemies in this game have this bizarre obsession with destructible objects, and nowhere is it more evident than in this chapter. It's been like 3 parts and Nyla's still getting 000'd. Which is the emergency call. Yep, there's that Falcon Knight, by the way. Which is actually the emergency phone number in Australia, so it's fitting because you'd probably call emergency if Nyla was attacking you. But anyway, what I was saying was, the enemies in this game have this weird obsession with destructible objects, especially in this chapter. They'll often prioritize attacking the sandbags over attacking you. And because of that, in a speedrun, they actually deploy a couple of weakened characters like Makalov to this chapter only to destroy sandbags, because their goal here is to destroy the sandbags themselves so that the enemy focuses on just charging into them, like, and by them I mean Nyla, and just dying. Like, it's harder for the enemy to suicide themselves in the enemy phase when they have sandbags to attack, so for that reason the speedrun prioritizes destroying the sandbags themselves as fast as possible. It's kind of an interesting strategy. So it's funny when I talk about Makalov and they're like, yeah, we use him to destroy a sandbag in 4-1. I keep going back to that Radiant Dawn speedrun, but they even say during the speedrun that one of the really interesting things about it is just, there aren't a lot of Fire Emblem speedruns where that many characters end up getting used. Like, the sheer number of characters who you see used in a Radiant Dawn speedrun is actually a lot more than you usually do. The enemies here are worth quite a bit of experience because they give, I think they give experience as if they're 3rd tiers. I like to call them tier 2.5s, but, also, yeah, get used to a pointless other phase, because Ina doesn't really do anything in this chapter. In fact, I don't even know why she's here, because you'd think, oh, it's a game over if the enemies reach Kurthanaga's tent. No, like, that's fine. Like, nothing happens if they reach that tent. It's weird. So, you could see there the main thing that makes this chapter extremely frustrating is the reinforcements in this chapter. The reinforcements, actually, wait a second. If I do this, as long as I get people away from the generals, they might actually go for Ina if I do this. But the reinforcements in this chapter teleport in, just like they did in the last one. And while there it was fine because you can actually see them coming, here, yeah, you've got to deal with Fog of War, and if you don't know, the reinforcements in this map, I find, are extremely trial and error, and that's what makes this one of my least favourite maps in the entire game. Unless you know where the reinforcements spawn, because yeah, I was lucky enough that this guy spawned where I had line of sight to, but eventually you'll be seeing reinforcements that spawn like here, or here. In early turns, we were unlikely to be able to see them. Eventually, they pull a massive jerk move and spawn reinforcements right here in this corner. The only way I know that is because I found out the hard way during my hard mode run. I was like, oh, I'm not, the route map isn't ending, where are some enemies? And I move Volog here, and then, yep, 3 enemies there, and he just barely survives. So, one thing that many people complain about reinforcements in Fire Emblem is most of them are very trial and error. It's very hard to avoid losing people to reinforcements unless you know when and where they spawn. Nowhere is that more true than in this chapter, and be thankful these reinforcements aren't ambush spawning, because by ambush spawning I mean they can move the turn they arrive, because that would just be even worse. Yes, they can reach Ina, however, remember I said that I need to be a little bit flexible with Rolf here and have him, move wherever he's needed? I'm gonna go ahead and have Rolf plug this gap here. Not exactly the most efficient thing in the world, but, anything to prevent Ina from getting attacked. Not because I'm worried about her survival, but more because, the enemies won't die if they attack Ina. And they'll be closer to my weaker characters, and, I mean, they won't die if they attack Rolf, because he can't counterattack at one range, but still. Okay, so, now is the time when... yeah, this is where... Actually, wait, I haven't used Arcwind yet. Might as well show this. I said that I wanted to show some Arc Tomes. I probably mentioned this before, but Radiant Dawn is where the Arc Tomes debuted, and they were called, Giga Tomes in Japanese, like Giga Fire, Giga Thunder, Giga Wind. And then they came back in Awakening, and now a lot of people know them from that. But this was actually the first game in the series to have Arc Tomes. Okay, I usually like to have Ike run down there and just act as a one-man army, but for now, I might not be able to do that, and I doubt Titania's going to double anything here. Let me just check. 25... Again, she's like 1 speed off doubling. Though I think she does double some of these snipers. Yes, she does. Okay, so at least I can do that. And I can't have her run all the way forward, because if she did, she'd leave the camp exposed. Which is probably fine if I move my weakened characters away from the center of the camp, or the bottom of the camp. I think I'll send Titania back there, though. Because, yeah, normally I like moving Ike further down, but Ike also needs to be within support range of Soren. Otherwise, Soren will very likely get splattered. And once again, Ragnar still kills everything. See, look, Weapon Triangle disadvantage, Ragnar still has 100 hit rate. Who needs axes? And it's not often I say that in Radiant Dawn. Because usually in Radiant Dawn, everybody needs axes. Because axes are the best thing in the world. It's like the anti-FE6, I've probably already said this, but like, axes in FE6 were incredibly bad. But they might have been done that way to balance out the fact that, I probably discussed the, like, the planned weapon triangle bonuses in FE6. They were planning to completely overhaul the weapon triangle and give every, like, instead of just a fixed accuracy and evasion bonus, they were planning to give every, I only have axes. Okay, perfectly fine. They were planning to give every, weapon triangle effect its own unique thing, so, I believe it was swords versus axes was always strike first. No, swords versus axes was guaranteed double attack. Lances versus swords was always strike first. And axes versus lances was ignore enemies' defense. Which might have been the reason why they made axes so inaccurate, because ignoring defense would have been a ridiculously powerful ability if the weapons weren't really, really bad to compensate. But, I can see why they dropped that, though, because guaranteed double attack. I mean, swords versus axes, you're gonna be double attacking anyway, most of the time, and sword users are naturally fast, so they really don't need a guaranteed double attack bonus. Whereas, and then, like, lances versus swords always strike first. That's actually interesting, that could have worked, but... And then the ignoring defense would have been really hard to balance properly. Oh, right, you're the one who has physic. Also, I should mention, there's a massive jerk move with the reinforcements that happens eventually. You want to keep people within your camp. And that's why I had Shin. That was very nice. Of course, your speed still hasn't increased since you joined, but, yeah, the temptation to do that is very high, but if I do that, Raphael is very likely to get splattered. Unless I rescue him with Mist, you know, that might not be a bad idea. I often have to rescue drop Raphael in this chapter. That is, rescue him with the cavalry and then have someone else grab him and then drop him so that he's not out of action for the next turn. Okay, so first things first, Titania heads a little bit down because she can actually double these snipers. This is a pretty good theme. I've probably said that before. I kind of miss this theme. But there are, like, all the battle themes in Radiant Dawn are amazing. And gain 1 point of speed, so you actually can double 22 speed enemies now. A couple of warriors, perfect for Little Lord Ike here. Let's just Arcwind you. Actually, that's out of support range of Ike if you go for those warriors. Soren is just getting Flare all the time now. And that was one of the few times Flare actually was a one-shot. That was pretty good, actually. Not bad at all. I like Soren gaining speed. Even though his speed cap is still terrible. Okay, yeah, now I definitely need Ike to stay near Soren, otherwise bad things will happen. Okay, yeah, good. Want to get rid of you, and you have a stealable pure water, I forgot about that. Yeah, I definitely need to rescue, almost called him Racing. I mean, all herons are kind of interchangeable to an extent, but not so much in this game, though. And let's go ahead and have Janeth grab you and then drop you. That's what I like to call a rescue drop. Oh boy, should Janeth go there? Yeah, see, I can see a lot further thanks to Janeth now. I'm just worried about Falcon Knights, because I know that Falcon Knights do spawn in eventually. And don't just love it when the enemy has a high crit rate, but has no damage. I didn't even plan for that guy to critical. I started my sentence before he crit, but that illustrated my point. Okay then. Going for Titania. Not really sure why you did that. I prefer that you go for Ike's, but anyway. At least she's actually doubling you. Yeah, this is a route map, so I will want to get through the enemies quickly. Yeah, they're all going for Titania. Why aren't they going for Soren? Okay, I would appreciate Soul right... Thank you, Titania. Soul was one of the best... And there's Spring Legs again. Soul was one of the best mastery skills in Path of Radiance, and it's even better in this one because it's triple damage and healing. Triple damage is easily one of the best secondary effects of the mastery skill. I've probably said that before. Because all the other secondary effects, you'll never see them because the enemy will be dead. And I say that healing is one of the best, and yet I still consider Flare to be a pretty bad mastery skill, but only because it doesn't triple damage. Would that have... No, that wouldn't have killed if it had crit. And the chances of it critting were pretty low. And, well, good thing the Sword Masters are attacking Mia and not Gatry, because Mia is one of the few things that can actually double them. Although, if I remember right, these guys have really bad speed for Sword Masters. And the Sword Masters having X's on the straps, like the straps being like an X, makes me think of Kingdom Hearts and a certain thing in Dream Drop, which, for in-jokey reasons that nobody here will get, I like to call that game Kingdom Hearts Dream Dream Dream. So, like, I have to physically restrain myself from saying Dream Dream Dream. But admittedly, Dream Drop Distance is a stupid title, so makes sense that I don't want to call it that. Okay, I was lucky enough to actually see that, but usually you're not so lucky. Yeah, at least in, for example, 3.6, that was Fog of War and had reinforcements, but the reinforcements, you can see the splashes in the water where they spawned. I'm pretty sure, yeah, Gatry doubles you. So I'll do that. And I do have to scout out that corner of the map eventually, because I know that reinforcements do spawn there. The Disciples of Order Bishops in particular have this really creepy look to them. Just that very, like, slightly greenish yellow, that almost sickly yellow. There's something really creepy about that. And, well, finally, you've gained enough speed to double the halberdiers here, which is good. But yeah, I can't quite talk about the creepiest thing about the Disciples of Order until much later, but I'm guessing a lot of you have figured it out by now. Don't like Mia being this far from her support partner. Speaking of which, I'm kind of debating whether to switch Mia's support over to Edward for endgame, or to keep with Gatry. We'll see. That was a pretty good level up. Also, you might notice the music here is, a Gathering of Storm? Yeah, it's a Gathering of Storms. I keep wanting to call it Storm Clouds, but that's an Awakening song and a chapter in this game. So, Unending Task, which played for the previous chapter as the map theme, you don't actually hear that very often in this game. And now Nyla can just charge all the way down here. And yep, that was a reinforcement, and there's another physics staff over there. Yeah, obviously, I think speedrunners like to prioritize the physics staff bishops because they can't kill themselves in the enemy phase, so they need to die on the player phase. Now, I hope Soren's win rank gets up to SS before endgame. It should, and Flare again! Wow. Soren is just loving Flare today. Let me just quickly check his. It'd be funny if it hit SS now. Let me see. It's more than halfway there. That's not bad. We're gonna get support from Nyla down there eventually, so maybe I should just send Ike and Soren down that way, and then send Shinnon and Gatry down there eventually. But, I mean, there's eventually gonna be a ton of reinforcement spawns from down there. If you let this chapter, like, go on for too long, you won't exactly get overwhelmed by reinforcements, but the map takes a long time to finish. On this difficulty, I don't find this map particularly hard, but that will change on hard mode. On hard mode was just... Although that was also because when I played this on hard mode, I really should have put more third tiers in the Grail Army. Because on my hard mode file, as I keep saying, it might as well be my catchphrase at this point, my only third tiers on Team Ike were Ike, Soren, Titania, and Shinnon. So, I mean, I had Nyla, but that's still not a lot of really strong combat characters on that party. And given the sheer number of... Well, I mean, everyone has to take on a lot of route chapters in Part 4, but Ike's team in particular has to deal with lots of really, really annoying reinforcement spam route chapters, especially 4-4. 4-4, I forgot how annoying that chapter was. 4-4 is... I'll talk about 4-4 when I get there. 4-4 is kind of, it's a very interesting chapter. And let's just do that to get you a little bit of experience. Do want to try and scout in there, but I know that there's going to be a reinforcement who... Well, I won't spoil it, but you can probably guess. I think Raphael is safe where he is for now. Once Janeth transforms, he's actually really, really strong. Janeth and Ulki can still one-round most enemies at this point, which really says something considering the enemies are essentially third tier by now. Might as well. Though that is a little bit of a waste of physic. I'm gonna leave Shinnon there. You'll see why soon. Oh, right, I forgot there were druids down there. Another very, very rare footage of druids in this game. You don't see them very often, but even with weapon triangle advantages against Anima, they kind of suck because... Yeah, Anima users have pretty decent resistance. Okay, I'm glad Soren's actually doubling. Now, there is a reason why I had Ike go down this side of the map, other than that I want to get him a lot of... He hasn't actually been getting a lot of experience. He usually fights more in this one. But there is a reason why I've sent him this way, and that is because this chapter has, in my opinion, the best Ike boss conversation in the entire duology. Also, that spell looks really cool. Trust me, you'll see it when I get there. I am going to have Ike fight this boss because you have to have Ike fight this boss. It's the best boss conversation that Ike has in the entire duology. Well, one of them. Ike has a lot of amazing boss conversations. And there it is. Yeah, yay discipline. And yay enemies being idiots with no sense of self-preservation and going for the closest enemy in range, even if it's Nyla. I always love when they did it with Zed in FE4, though. Some of them were smart enough not to attack him, though, but most weren't. Huh, you were smart enough not to attack Nyla. Okay, that's that group of 3 there, and that's the jerk reinforcement that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, they actually spawn reinforcements inside your camp. But it's actually not that bad if you know they're coming, but again, that's like most reinforcements in Fire Emblem, which is why most people hate reinforcements. They're very trial and error. Okay, good. I was about to say Shinnon needs to crit here, but he did. I probably could have done something if Shinnon hadn't crit, but he still pulled through. Okay, you're open 5... Actually, 27 speed's pretty good. But I think I'll try... I know there is a mage among that group of reinforcements, so maybe I should use the Wind Edge, even though it's probably not going to kill stuff. Actually, let's just use the Storm Sword. And I criticaled anyway. Now I'm going to have Nyla kill that Pegasus Knight. And yeah, there is a mage there, obviously, so yeah. Gonna have Nyla kill this Pegasus Knight just because Pegasus Knights are really... Well, it's a Falcon Knight, but... You know, some of us like to refer to classes by their lowest tier just because it makes sense that way. Didn't need that to happen, but still... I don't think there's been a single enemy in this chapter who could actually damage Nyla. I mean, I guess she mostly exists to be your fallback in case too many people have died. Don't know why you were smart enough to not attack Nyla, though. Okay, so now, though... Soren's actually been doing a lot more in this chapter than I thought he would be. And you do have SS... Yeah, you have SS and Wind now, so maybe I should focus on your other elements, even though they won't exactly... That's still enough, so let's do that. I'll say they won't exactly give you anything decent. Oh yeah, the S-rank spells, though, are like Tornado, Bolt, and Onan, which I don't find that amazing in this one. Because usually by the time you can use them, your mages have such high magic stats that against anything you want to be using mages against, you one-round them with L-Wind anyway. And yeah, with Wind being as powerful as it is in this one, they've kind of gone back to genealogy Wind magic, where Wind was objectively better than every other type of magic, and that's not just because it had Force Heavy. Oh, that's our first Ether of this playthrough. It's pretty similar to how it looks in the first one. I don't think it looks quite as good, personally. And it doesn't triple damage on either of its strikes. So, it's actually one of the weaker mastery skills in this one, but at least it's 2 attacks. And, yeah, quite a few enemies down there. Most of whom will go for Ike and die horribly. Okay, there's no one down there yet, but there will be later, so I'm glad I have Titania positioned in that area. Here is one of those times where I actually need Luna. And no Luna. I mean, I was planning on going on a bit of a tangent about, like, reinforcements in the series, but I've already talked a lot about it. It's just... I've pretty much said all I can. Reinforcements are generally... Oh, Rolf hasn't done a lot here. But I might be able to Raphael him into range of some things. Reinforcements are usually not considered... Well, I mean, when the map telegraphs reinforcements, they're not that bad. Even then, though, there are some maps that have red herring forts, where you're like, oh, I have to keep someone near this fort because I know reinforcements are going to come from it eventually. I mean, there's a fort. Why would they put a fort in this map if they weren't going to spawn reinforcements from it? And then they never spawn reinforcements from that fort. I know I've had that situation happen to me a lot. But, I mean, it's usually pretty obvious where reinforcements are going to be coming from on any given map. So, in those cases, I'm kind of okay with them. But there are definitely some situations where they're just really, really cheap with reinforcements, and I know there's a Falcon Knight that spawns around there eventually, so I will have to keep Raphael and Mist away from that. And yeah, I still felt like Awakenings, like having the boss yell, I'm going to be sending reinforcements at you now, kind of awkward. Or at least they could have found, okay, congratulations, you're the first enemy on this map who can damage Nyla, but of course that doesn't mean you will. And that's why I equipped the Storm Sword. And you're dead. Triple skill activation. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, if they'd found some way to better sort of justify it with the story, like, And that's a classic example of the enemies being, bloodthirsty sandbag murderers. So you're going near her, but you're not attacking. Oh, I knew there'd be reinforcements there eventually. And I think those reinforcements are proximity triggered, but I'm not 100% sure. Because I usually only see them come when I'm getting close to the boss. But now Janeth can actually afford to fight things and not kill them. I was saying earlier that Janeth and Ulki still one-round most of the enemies, but apparently not quite. Yeah, I thought that the Fort Steiger, or whatever that map was, like, that did a good job of justifying when the reinforcements would be coming, because, it was, you know, like a planned attack with planned reinforcements, and they, you know, anyway. It still did a bit of a jerk move with what actually happened with those reinforcements, because you thought they'd be on your side, and they weren't. But that was kind of justified in the story, but other times the boss is just like, oh, I'm gonna be sending reinforcements at you! I don't know why I'm yelling this so loudly. Anyway. Let's not talk so much about other, I mean, I've said this many times before in this playthrough, but at least when I go on tangents in this playthrough, I'm usually going on tangents about Fire Emblem, or that are related to Fire Emblem, whereas in Path of Radiance, yeah, and that's something I'm going to be going into later on in, probably in 4-5, because that map is kind of a long grind fest. I might be talking about just my overall thoughts on Radiant Dawn, and, maybe some thoughts on this project overall, like the playthrough itself. Yeah, I know that a Falcon Knight spawns here eventually, so I'm just waiting for it to come. Soren has got way too much, I was about to say action, but that sounds, that could be interpreted the wrong way. Ike needs a bit more of a chance here. But I do feel like I don't know, I am one of the... I feel like I'm one of the few people in the fanbase who genuinely enjoys Radiant Dawn far more than Path of Radiance. I almost want to move Soren out of Ike's support range just because I want things to attack Ike. But I do feel like the reason why I'm going on less tangents in this playthrough, I say that as I go on a tangent now, is because, well, one, like the maps in Radiant Dawn, I find them more challenging, there's a lot more to talk about, and there's a lot more gameplay mechanics in Radiant Dawn, I guess, to talk about than there were in Path of Radiance. Path of Radiance was a very conventional Fire Emblem game in most regards. So yeah, there's a lot more to talk about in most of these maps. But also just that I generally have a lot more to say about Radiant Dawn because it's a game that I appreciate a lot more than most people do. And that's part of why I wanted to do this playthrough. Okay, yeah, like, in hindsight, I probably should have got rid of you. I was thinking, oh yeah, I'll get rid of the enemy that at least has a slight chance of damaging Soren, but yeah, I should have killed you, because then you would have, like, then the Halberdier would have been guaranteed to attack someone who'd kill him on the enemy phase. Now I'm starting to think like a speedrunner. But I mean, you often do end up thinking like a speedrunner on these route chapters if you've been through this game as many times as I have, because there's nothing worse than having a route chapter that drags on forever. Speaking of which, Fog of War route chapters in particular, usually it's not a good combination. Just thought of another tangent. It would be cool if Smash Ultimate actually added Ike's Vanguard outfit as an alternate costume. But I don't know if they'll do that. They probably won't, but it'd be cool if they did. But yeah, Fog of War route chapters, they're always annoying in a way that my practice run of this chapter perfectly illustrated. I'd killed almost everything on the map, and it still wasn't over. That's the moment that you always dread in a Fog of War route chapter, because I was like, oh no, I have to search, I have to comb every inch of this map to find that one enemy that I missed, and sure enough, there was one enemy I was missing. And it's always, I mean, Advance Wars can get like that too, and that's why I had Titania down there. Okay, that end of enemy phase lasted longer than usual, which probably means some reinforcements spawned in where I can't see. So that might be a really bad thing. And now though, I'm going to actually send... Let's see... Might actually send Nyla over here. Nope, nothing in there. I was just checking. But I can't remember if there have been many other Fog of War round chapters in this series. I feel like some of the Sacred Stones ones might have been Fog of War round chapters. I think like Creeping Darkness and Phantom Ship maybe, but those never felt as annoying. I think because in Phantom Ship the enemies all rush at you right from the start. But here you have to go through that tedious process of gradually searching for the enemies in the dark when you've killed almost everything. It's very annoying. And that's probably why there are not a lot of Fog of War route chapters in this series. Yep, there's the boss. Catalina, she kind of... I keep confusing with Katarina, or... I know there's at least one other character who has a similar name to her. But she's a Falcon Knight, or essentially a watered-down Seraph Knight, because she's a tier 2.5 Falcon Knight. And she has the best boss conversation with Ike ever. So I've been really, really looking forward to showing that. It's an amazing conversation. Okay, no doubling. I might actually double up and have Titania go for this Purchase Knight and then have Gatry attack as well. So even the Pegasi have this weird yellowy green glow to them. Okay, mage there. Which means maybe I should equip a ranged weapon, like maybe hand axe, even though that's a sword Falcon Knight. Which I believe are actually divided into their own class in Heroes. Okay, at least the flyer is out of the way. And then Rolf is getting closer. Just out of curiosity, is there anything in there? Doesn't really look like it, and let's just... I think more things spawn in there eventually as well. Okay, here's the cheap way of scouting in Fog of War. Okay, I know there's not an enemy there because I didn't get the trap symbol. I do that in Advance Wars sometimes too, but you have to be careful about doing that in Advance Wars because in Fog of War their units consume fuel even if you take back an action. Which was probably done specifically to discourage people from doing what I just did. And why am I suddenly talking about Advance Wars again? It's because I recently started playing Dual Strike again. I knew there was something there. Well, at least it was a mage. I mean that because, it's easy for Shinnen to kill it next turn. If that was an Armor Knight, it would have been a little harder. But yeah, I've been playing a bit of Dual Strike because I haven't actually played that game for years because I lost my copy when I was younger. And I wanted to see if it was as good as I remember it being... Oh, there's more up there. And I just moved Rolf down. That's unfortunate. Oh crap, there were 3 there. Didn't realize there was a second batch of 3. Please don't critical. Good. Okay, yeah, that's not good. Okay, at least all of you were in view. And all of you will die to Icon Sauron on the enemy phase, so I'm fine with that. But what I'm not so fine with is, well, at least I can get Rolf back here. And he does double the Swordmaster, which is good, but now I need to do this because I need to think, okay, who does Shinnen double? Doubles you, but I kind of want Shinnen to kill the mage, although first I'm going to need to heal. Don't think I can get Raphael to Rolf, but I might be able to get Raphael to Janeth. And that'd be funny, having Janeth coming to save Shinnen, because they had a support in Path of Radiance where it was actually one of Shinnen's few somewhat decent moments to a Laguz at the end of their A support. But yeah, I have been playing a bit of Dual Strike, and it is actually, like, there are some pretty fun maps in Dual Strike. And it's also, like, its campaign is a bit weird because the first third is ludicrously easy, but then after Verdant Hills, suddenly everything gets a lot harder. It's kind of a weird difficulty spike. That's tempting, but I don't know if that's really a good idea or not. So if I do that and Janeth can't kill that soldier, maybe in that case I'll just have you chant. And get you in there. Okay, good. Janeth can kill this halberdier. I might record Dual Strike sometime. But yeah, I need to refamiliarize myself a lot with the campaign before I even attempt doing that, because I would be going for all S ranks again, and while a lot of those missions, like, there have been some missions on my playthrough of Dual Strike where I finish it and I go, seriously? You gave me an S rank for that? But there have been other times when I've definitely got pretty bad rankings on a few missions. Oh, I guess we get to see Mist killing something. But as I've recorded this, I am currently up to Crystal Calamity, and I'm sure all of you who've played that game know my pain. It's like, hey, maybe Crystal Calamity isn't as bad as I remembered. Oh wait, yes it is. And it only gets worse, because after Crystal Calamity is when you have to face the part of the game that I like to call Attack of the Clones. And, pretty much every mission in that arc is listed under that one level on TV Trope, which will give you a good idea of what you're in for. Yeah, I think I'll fight the boss a little later. If I remember correctly, Evil Andy is not that bad, but Evil Drake in particular is a nightmare. And Evil Kanbei and Evil Olaf are pretty annoying as well. How close are you to... I believe... No, wait, no. Ike goes up all the way up to 40 skill, I think, and then he caps speed, I think, at 38. I usually don't have, like, caps entirely memorized, but... I mean, I know that True Blades cap skill and speed at 40. I know that they caps... Well, the males at least cap strength at 32, females at 31, even though that doesn't really make much of a difference. But I mean, I really like True Blade, so I have their caps kind of memorized. Now, you're a mage, so you're probably going to get doubled by Gatry because, yeah, Radiant Dawn hates mages once again. I seem to remember that a little later in this chapter, a giant line of reinforcements spawns all down the bottom part of the map. Yeah, that's the annoying thing about reinforcement heavy. Your skill activation animation with an axe looks pretty cool. Don't think I've seen that before. That's the first time Adept's actually done something, but it was completely pointless. Gatry's been getting some weird levels for me in this playthrough. I mean, at least he got speed before, but he definitely needs to pick up the pace a bit. And if I have Nyla attack you, then I know that the mage is not going to die. but seeing as I'm not going to end this enemy phase anyway, and I'm kind of worried about leaving this part of the map in darkness, because there could be reinforcements there, and that could drag on the map for ages. So I might want to send Janeth back there just to have vision from that side of the map. This isn't like a particularly difficult map, but it can get a little bit annoying if you're not managing all the possible fronts at the same time. Yeah, I saw that coming. When you play Fire Emblem for as long as I have, the AI gets really, really predictable. You know they'll always avoid counterattacks if they can, and you know they'll always go for what they're... Well, usually they'll go for whoever they'll do the most damage to. But it's like, you can pretty much count on them to always... Like, if they can, if it's possible for them to not get countered, they will go for that. Which is why archers tend to suck in a lot of Fire Emblem games, because they know they can't counter at melee range, so they'll just go, yeah, let's just attack the archer. Which is particularly bad in... Okay, let me see. Oh, another batch of 3 from there. I was going to say which is particularly bad for FE7, because that means that using archers horribly tanks your endgame ranking, because it's really bad for combat, even though I usually S-rank the combat ranking without even trying. Could be things spawning there. I mean, I also had something spawning there. This is what I really hate about this map. So I'm going to torch and run, I think, here. Okay, good. Nothing there. Anything on this side? Not there. I'll have something to talk about soon, because very soon we'll have the best Ike boss conversation in the entire duology. Even with Insight, Janeth's Fog of War vision range is not that big, which is a bit unfortunate. Is there anything here Titano can double? I'm guessing maybe the mage. Yes, of course, because, yeah, it's a mage. Well, that's not just a problem with Radiant Dawn. In a lot of Fire Emblems, enemy mages tend to have very bad speed. But it might make up for the fact that in large numbers, mages can be a big threat to even people like Ike, although Ike just generally doesn't really like mages at all. No, not converse, and I can't double you, which means I definitely can't double you. Actually, you've only got 24 speed. But I said it much earlier in this playthrough that enemy Pegasus Knights have a massive tendency towards sucking in this game, but in most Fire Emblems as well. They tend to not know the meaning of speed stance. Nia taking no damage from something is kind of impressive, though. Or it's just a showing of how bad this Falcon Knight is. I am approaching an hour. I really want this map to be over soon. Okay, please get a crit or activate Adept or Lunar. And there's a chance that at least one of those will happen. Yep, got Lunar. Okay, so if by some chance there are not any enemies in the dark areas, I might end this now. If not, we go into that annoying period of the map where it's, like I said earlier, it's just like, where's the one enemy? Soren got a lot of level ups in this chapter. But if he goes there, then Ike gets his support against the boss, so might as well do that. Even though Ike definitely doesn't need the support. I really like the mage skill activation and critical animations in Radiant Dawn. A lot better than Path of Radiance, where they just wave their arms around a little bit. And much better than in Genealogy, when Mage Knights criticaling they would just hold their hand in the air for a few seconds longer than they normally would. I know I've probably said that many, many times, I just still find that really, really stupid. Forget if Reinhardt did that in Epic 5 or not. Oh, I can't double him. Interesting. So you have 29. I'd need 30... I need 34. Yeah, I could need a lot more W. However, I mean, I normally like to have Ike beat the boss, but... just showing the quote's probably good enough. So, without further ado, in my opinion, the best Ike boss conversation in both games. That's still my absolute favorite Ike boss conversation. And you might think that that was just, like, punched up in the localization. It wasn't. I've looked at a direct, like, the Japanese version, and so I guess talking over is out of the question. Is pretty much a direct translation of the Japanese. It's kind of interesting, like, Ike... a lot of people... okay, so, in spin-off games, Ike is not that snarky, and that led me to think that maybe... I might have to do this just for the sake of efficiency. At least gives it more, more boss dialogue. This boss is very overdramatic. But, and also moment of truth when the boss dies, whether the map ends or not. Is it over? It's over! Okay, didn't expect that, but yeah, that's pretty cool. And Ike sums up this map in one line. So what I was saying was, it's led a lot of people to believe that maybe Ike's snarkiness was a product of the localization, but lines like that were actually direct translations, maybe not. Maybe the spin-offs just, for some reason, decided to ignore the fact that Ike was snarky. I don't know. I mean, you know, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate heavily mischaracterized Lucina, so it probably heavily mischaracterized Ike too. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Ina never transforms through that whole map, so this is actually gameplay and story integration. And now we have some very important story moments. Yeah, just leave Ragnall somewhere. Please have someone keeping an eye on that. That sword is amazing. So this is a nice callback to that moment all the way back in the first game. It's moments like these that made me... because I was originally planning to just jump straight into Radiant Dawn and not record Path of Radiance for the channel, but it's moments like these that I thought, yeah, you really need all of these little callbacks, so... and that's why I did them back to back. I wanted people to remember these moments and, just see the callbacks in the second game. That's interesting, though. No, we didn't. So the experience was just as beneficial to Kurthanaga as it was to us. It's funny that he's the one saying that, because remember how Ike acted back then? This kind of sums up Ike's development since then as well. Here's the semi-important bit, though. There's also some people who feel that Kurth Naga may have been the reason why Yune awakened, because there's the whole issue of whether or not it's just a particularly severe war that spreads throughout the continent, or whether it's literally a war that involves every nation in the continent, and Kurth Naga fighting on the day inside meant that technically Goldoa was in the war too, and thus Medallion awakening. So it's possible Kurth Naga might be responsible for all of this. Well, that's the first we're hearing about a brother. We know who his sister is, that's Almeida, and so Kurth Naga was fighting on Micaiah's side because if the Blood Pact had been triggered, there was a pretty good chance Almeida would have ended up dying. And there she is. This is the point in the game where we finally start to find out more about her story, and as I've hinted at before, I find her story to be one of the most fascinating in the game. We've seen that guy before and heard that name, but this is the first we've known about them being related. Now the pieces are finally coming together. There are many people in the last game who asked, how did Ashnard get hold of Rajon? We're about to find out why. So yeah, he was lured in through the child of Ashnard and his sister. I mean, Ashnard was already a pretty horrible person in Path of Radiance, but when you find out the kind of stuff that's revealed about him in this game, he gets even worse. It wasn't just the whole Blood Pact thing, it's also this. Now, this conversation was actually kind of infamous when this game first came out in Japanese. Translations of this were circulated around the internet, and I actually kind of remember the translations ended up looking pretty much exactly like what the official localization looked like. So this was to clarify that, yes, Rajon did in fact die at the end of the last game. In the English version of Path of Radiance, it was, to quote Avatar, kind of unclear. But this makes it very, very clear Rajon is dead. He definitely died in the last game. The translation was a little bit awkward there and kind of didn't entirely imply it, especially the line, "We have to take Rajon back to my hometown." If they'd said Rajon's body, it would have been less ambiguous, but they were, of course, referring to his body, but it was kind of... maybe they just didn't know at the time whether or not he was actually dead and wanted to keep it ambiguous in the translation. Yeah, and Almeida's suffering doesn't end there. We'll be seeing more of that in the next chapter, because then we'll be switching to the group that actually has Almeida as one of their members. Ike has a pretty good line here. We're seeing the first pieces of an overarching plot involving Dayan and Ashnard that has only been alluded to earlier, and I'll just say is not going to be super important in the grand scheme of things, but it's some very interesting backstory, and some of it you have to go out of your way to unlock yourself. That you'll always see, and the bit in the next chapter you'll always see, but from then on, you'll need to go out of your way to see a lot of this backstory information. Anyway, with that done, next time I'll be switching to Team Elincia. I call them Team Elincia. They're not Team Tiban, they're Team Elincia to me. And we'll be taking on another route chapter. Surprise, surprise.